The Trump administration has revoked Harvard's ability to enroll international students, escalating a standoff with America's oldest and most renowned university.
The administration is also forcing existing students to transfer to other schools or lose their legal status. The order to terminate Harvard's student and exchange visitor program certification came from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Posting on social media, she accused the university of fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party.
The move comes after the university refused to provide information that the department had previously demanded about some foreign student visa holders who attend the institution. Harvard has replied, calling the government's move illegal and amounting to retaliation. It's rejected the allegations and says it's fully committed to supporting and educating foreign students.
Harvard says the move will impact thousands of students. The university enrolled nearly 6,800 international students in the current academic year. According to university statistics, that amounts to 27% of its enrollment enrollment.
The Homeland Security Secretary says the Trump administration is considering similar moves at other universities. For more on the implications of the Trump administration's move, let's speak now with Alex Usher. He's president at Higher Education Strategy Associates, and he joins us right now from Toronto. Very glad to have you on the show this morning. Can I start by asking you, what does the Trump administration want exactly from Harvard? I mean, we're hearing lots of things, and among them, accusations of collaboration with the Chinese Communist Party, which honestly sounds a bit far-fetched.
It's very far-fetched. What the administration wants is obedience. I think we're seeing this in lots of facets of American life. He's trying to bully law firms into not suing his administration. He's trying to, bully cities that are not in agreement with some of his tactics of his immigration officials. And in terms of universities, he simply wants to be able to dictate policy. And a lot of that policy is around measures to help students from minority groups to attend university, which he says is illegal, but is not, in fact. And there are people who are pushing back on his overall agenda. And Harvard is, the richest of the people who are pushing back on this agenda. He's been trying to cut funds from a number of universities to get them to obey, to get them to do what he wants in terms of curriculum, in terms of extracurricular programming, those kinds of things. And Harvard's rich enough that they can push back. And so he's found a new way to attack them. He's found another tool. I don't think there's any reason to think that this will end with Harvard. They just happen to be, that's the biggest target he can find right now. And if he can get them to back down, then he can use it on all the other institutions as well. So think of this as a test case rather than there's nothing serious in those allegations. They just want to see if they can get away with it.
Okay, but that said, Alex, I understand that the news is quite new. We hear that the immediate impact is going to be on enrollment, possibly. But I'm wondering how also will it affect international students who are already part of the current cohort, and I guess also those who are about to graduate who have work visas which are sponsored by Harvard.
Right. So my understanding is the work visas are canceled, period. And this international students who are already at Harvard have been told their visas will be revoked unless they transfer to another school. So they're not being told necessarily, the Trump administration can claim it's not actually after the international students, it's just Harvard. But a lot of those students who are there, they wouldn't be in the United States if it weren't for Harvard. If they are going to transfer somewhere, it might not be within the United States. So I think you might see a lot of them go home. And certainly it seems that these students whose work visas are attached to their time at Harvard, they're simply out of luck. They are pawns, as I think one of your previous guests said.
Yeah, reports saying that international students account for over a fourth of Harvard's total enrollment. They pay foreign rates. So given their outsized importance, is Harvard going to challenge this? Already it has filed a legal challenge over the government's attempt to impose curriculum changes, admissions policies, and hiring.
So at a private school in the United States, there's no such thing as a differential domestic and international rate, right? So that it's all private. So it's not like a public institution where you do have differential rates in state, out of state, those kinds of things. Look, the big issue, and Harvard at a certain level doesn't need tuition money, right? They're so rich that they don't necessarily need that. I mean, it will hurt them, the loss of international student dollars, sure, but it's not crippling the way it would be at another school with enrollment rates that high. Lots of those students cost Harvard money, right? Those are the students who are coming for graduate programs in engineering and science. Harvard's paying for those students to be there. They're waiving the tuition, they're giving them stipends. So I wouldn't view the money necessarily as being the big issue. I would think for Harvard, the issue is they're losing a massive chunk of their STEM program graduate students, and it affects their ability to do top-end research in many fields.
Okay.
And I just think at any institution, doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you tell a quarter of the people who are there they have to go, that's wrenching for the school. That's their students. That's the community.
Okay.
And so I think that's probably at Harvard, that's what people are thinking about tonight.
Okay, we'll ask you a bit more about the loss of the, I guess, that student body in a second. But I just want to quickly go back to the point you were making about revenue. International students do bring in revenue for the government, as I understand it. So isn't that a concern for the administration as it tries to pass its so-called big, beautiful bill that apparently could raise the deficit by trillions?
So it makes the government money in the sense that international students bring dollars, they work, they contribute, they spend money in the local community, and importantly, I think, given what the Trump administration says it wants to do, they bring in it's a huge trade surplus. Education is a huge source of trade surpluses for the United States because so many students go there and so few students leave. But I think what that tells you is the government, the Trump administration doesn't really care about most things that it says are policy priorities. They don't care about trade surpluses. They care about other people bending the knee, about people being obedient. When Trump says something, everybody has to obey. And if they won't, they'll be punished. You need to think of him as a gangster. You need to think of him as a thug. This is not about policy at all. It's simply about obedience.
So I want to look at, what the latest move as well sends to the message that the move sends to international students, scholars wanting to study in the U.S., and how this might affect the U.S.'s standing in the global competition for academic talent. I mean, you brought up STEM students as one.
I mean, there's no reason for any international student to go to the United States because it's quite clear. As the Secretary of Homeland Security said, she's quite willing to move this to apply this to other graduate programs, to other universities, and that don't assume this government is not constrained by law. It's not constrained by regulation. I mean, eventually things will win through the court, and as Harvard says, people will, the courts will find that the government's moved illegally, but in the meantime, they will have spent months denying visas to people. Why would any international student want to go to the United States when, this could be, they could be subject to this at any time? And how is that going to affect America? I think the main reason is, look, North America has been traditionally the most innovative economy. It's the source of so many innovations across the world for the last 60 or 70 years. And the motor that powers that are science and engineering labs at big American universities. And guess what? Over half of the graduate students in those labs are international students, predominantly from Asia. And if those students stop coming, those labs start working. And if those labs start working, then the pipeline of innovation fails. You're talking about lower growth, lower innovation right around the world. This is big stuff, and it's very, very damaging.
Yeah, these are a bit longer, a medium to longer term impact. But what happens right now? I mean, Kristi Noem said that Harvard must comply with the demands in 72 hours to have an opportunity to regain its ability to enroll international students. What do you think the school could do?
They won't do. They will refuse to comply. I don't think the university has any choice. I think what Trump is demanding is obedience. It's saying that its wishes supersede those of the board of trustees, that they supersede those of the university itself, and the universities should simply comply with whatever whim comes out of the White House. There's no reason to think if they bend the knee now, if they agree to obey now, that the Trump administration won't ask for more a month from now. So they'll say no. And those students, I think, the best hope is that, in fact, the clash between the Supreme Court and the Trump administration gets accelerated. I mean, the problem with this is the government knows what it's doing is illegal, but the court system takes time to work. The court system is not designed to put an immediate break on an executive that's gone crazy, because we've never had that in 250 years. So, but I think, look, a lot of those judges on the Supreme Court, they're graduates of Harvard Law. My guess is this case is going to move up the docket very, very quickly. And I suspect very strongly that the Supreme Court will find that the Trump administration does not have the power to do this. And then you're in for the real constitutional struggle that, has been brewing since January 20th, which is, will the Trump administration actually obey a direct order from the Supreme Court? We don't know.
All right, Alex, and we will see how that plays out in the next few days and weeks. Alex Usher there, President, Higher Education Strategy Associates. Thanks for joining us.
Well, Harvard has tried to address some of the concerns of students and scholars on immigration enforcement actions after its recent standoff with the Trump administration. It says federal authorities are expected to check with the University Police Department before taking any action on campus. Asians should also have a valid judicial warrant, and if so, campus police must comply with it. The institution's foreign office telling community members to, contact university police immediately if they see immigration agents on campus. They must present a valid judicial warrant or get the person's permission before entering their dorm, room, or home. The university says students may keep their door closed and ask for a warrant to be slipped underneath. If a warrant is produced, the university advising people to contact on-campus authorities to come and verify the agent's information before opening the door to them. Now, if students or other members encounter authorities off campus, the university says they don't have to answer questions, sign documents, or show ID papers from their home country. Now, members have the right to refuse any search except a pat-down for suspected weapons.